I put off going to the doctor way too long. And I did that out of irrational belief that I was going to have this life-altering change. Now, obviously, you're not in a good state because of high blood sugar. You're not thinking clearly. You're not operating like you should be. You're tired. You're dehydrated. Everything's going wrong. You're losing your vision. So you're getting all of this thrown at you. So you're not making rational decisions to begin with. I think layered on top of that for me was this irrational belief that I'm stuck at the same timeline as my grandfather.
I started to notice when I was very young that he was drinking a lot of water, and he just couldn't kind of satisfy his thirst. And he had poor vision all of a sudden when he had perfect vision. And so he went to his eye doctor, and the eye doctor says, Ray, you have diabetes. You need to go to a doctor right away. And the doctor said, you're going to have to change your life completely. You're going to have to live exactly the same way every day, eat at the same times, be careful about what you eat.
Elma was always right there front and center taking care of Ray because, making sure his blood sugar was okay, making sure he ate on time. It was a 24/7 for her.
And as my father got along, older, and he just continued to live that same exact life. And what's amazing to me is that he was able to live that for 50 years. He ended up passing away when he was 80 years old.
I knew a lot about my grandfather's type 1 diabetes. It's funny, in high school I actually wrote a paper about kind of the differences between type 1 and type 2, the psychology of that, what it meant from a long-term basis. So it was always on my mind. But what I knew is Ray had kind of gotten it either in his late 20s, early 30s. And so after 30, I stopped worrying about it. I actually was training for a half Ironman here in Indiana, and driving home from that event, it was in the evening, and it was actually dark. And what I'd noticed is the lights were like almost starbursts as I was driving home. And I kept thinking, yeah, I'm not 40 yet.
So then the week leading up to the diagnosis, I remember him saying, I'm having trouble with the clock. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm having trouble seeing, I'm like, okay, seeing the numbers, 40-year-old eyes, maybe that's what's going on. He didn't tell me he couldn't see the clock at all.
I knew in the back of my mind what was happening. I knew the symptoms. I knew about type 1 diabetes. I knew this could probably only be one thing. I knew about Ray. And so that's when I went into our work clinic. I told him my symptoms. I already knew what to tell him. I'm going to be a type 1 diabetic. And he says, yeah, I'm going to prick your finger. It went off scale. He says, we can't measure it. We've got to get you to an ER.
It was honestly really scary having to sit in that hospital room and just wonder, I don't know if Dad's going to be coming home because of how bad it's gotten.
I was going to bed one night, and this was after we were home from the hospital, and I remember hearing Evan crying and Dad comforting him that Dad's going to be okay, but that was kind of hard to hear.
And I just kept asking, is it going to be okay? Is this going to be a problem that's just going to keep coming and coming and coming? And we never, I never got a clear answer, because you don't get a clear answer with this.
That's when I committed as as much as this disease owns me, we're going to approach as a family, but I'm going to be there for the kids, and I'm going to empower them to help me through this.
When my father first was diagnosed and then started to receive shots, he had the Lilly pig insulin. He would later on, he got the finger prick so that he could figure out how high he was or if he was too low. But those were really incremental improvements.
The things that my grandfather could only have dreamed of, I had instant access to. CGMs that my mom and my wife and my daughter and my son could remotely monitor me wherever I am. Insulin that's rapid acting, insulin that's long acting. I mean, you can tailor it specifically, kind of even your times, your cycles for everything that's going on in your life.
I think the big difference was my father could never really be alone. Mom was always there.
It's really nice to see the changes that you can live a normal life.
The pace of technological advancement right now is quite amazing. And make no mistake, that pace is changing because of the funds raised at JDRF. They are singularly focused to find a cure. And so sometimes that's what we think about when we think about JDRF, but it's really about also ensuring a quality of life for those afflicted with T1D now. We do the Bag of Hopes for newly diagnosed. We help fundraise. We put on walks. We put on bike rides. We talk to healthcare providers. We put on a thing for school nurses. We run research summits for what's the latest and greatest. And we actually have those monthly with our Indiana chapter board, so we can kind of stay up to date what's happening and how we get that information out. We organize and run and push people into clinical trials because we know clinical trials are part of what's needed to get us to the cure. We run summits, so that we can teach parents with young children and even people like myself how to manage this disease in a way that allows you to thrive as a person. All those things that JDRF does are necessary to get there, but finding the bike team with JDRF was one step that took it even farther. When I used to work out, when I used to go out for a run I just took off. I didn't worry about it. I was so scared to do that after my diagnosis. Surrounding myself with a bunch of riders that knew about diabetes, that were raising funds for JDRF, was literally one of the best environments you could be put into. And that's really where my road to recovery started, from simply surviving to really wanting to thrive. 50 years ago, I think the best outcome you could hope for was to simply survive with T1D. With the work, the dedication, and the money raised through JDRF, we've gone from now being able to survive to being able to thrive. But we're not finished. There is a cure coming down. We're going to get there. We need funds, we need support, and we need JDRF to continue to do what it can through wonderful donations like people here at the Gala in order to get to that finish line. And I'm excited. We're going to do it. And I'll celebrate the day when we all together have a cure.